Hi, I'm Tom Hilton, and I'm here speaking to Ginny Takach, for nearly 25 years the mainstay of Pottstown Borough. She served no less than 6 borough managers. She had an encyclopedic knowledge of what was going on in the borough. She didn't know, she could find out very quickly. Had a very pleasant demeanor with everybody who called in.
Oh,
A
thank you.
remarkable thing to me was, over the years, there were lots of council people who couldn't stand each other, but they all liked Ginny Takach.
That's amazing.
So let's start off with your early years before you got to Pottstown. Not
Okay.
that that part is important, but
course.
before you got to Pottstown, you grew up in Perkiomenville.
Perkiomenville was starting, we grew up in that area and we always considered it the country. Perkiomenville, Frederick, Gilbertsville, and from there I initially went to St. Philip Neri, 8th to 8th grade, and from there to St. Pius X, and I graduated in 1967. And then I went on to Gwynedd Mercy College, graduated in 1969 with a degree in medical secretary, which I never got to use. When I graduated in 69, I was already married and pregnant at the time, after I got married. And so then my husband, we had to move up our wedding because he knew he was getting drafted. So there I was, no job, no nothing, pregnant with our first child, and my husband was off to Vietnam, so I did have to move back with my parents and my sisters and my grandmother all in one home. And my first son was born in January, January 1970, and my first husband never got home from Vietnam until November of 1970. So that was my history of schooling.
You were already in Pottstown by the time your husband got back.
By the time he came back, we were on the waiting list to get into Sunrise Lane. We were lucky enough to get in Sunrise Lane. I think Dave Swinehart had all those homes at the time, and since my husband was military, kind of got it bumped up, and we did get to Sunrise Lane. And we were there for 2 years. Second child came along, and then we moved to Hawthorne Avenue, still in town, and we were there for 11 years. Now, I didn't start working until my youngest son was 4 years old. At the time, my Judge Dash was a good friend of my father-in-law's, Earl Beiser. And Earl Beiser, by the way, holds the record for the longest-serving council person, 20 years. I think a couple have come close, Dennis Wasnock and Steve Tironi, even 17 years, I think. But Earl still holds the record.
So
But
let's explain who Justice Dash was.
Judge Dash was the district magistrate. Before 1970, he was the justice of the peace in town. In 1970, excuse me, the system changed and they came under the state, and he was appointed as the district judge and served for till like 1993. Well, he called me at home one night to see if I knew how to type, and I said, yeah, I can type. He said, well, can you come in and help us out? One of the 2 staff members was going to be out sick for a while, and so I said, sure, I can type. So I went in and I saw a whole new world, like real people, real problems, needed real help, and I lasted 22 years there. It was a little different type of world, but I certainly got used to it, and I loved doing it. It was, if I could make one person's day a little bit easier, it was a good day. So it was interesting.
So his territory that Charles Dash covered, what territory was that?
At the time, it was like the western end of Pottstown, half of Pottstown, all of West Pottsgrove, and Upper Pottsgrove. And then I think years later, when they evened out the wards, I think a little bit of the lines changed. But at that time, it was half of Pottstown, the west end, West Pottsgrove, and Upper Pottsgrove. So we were busy. We were one of the busiest courts. It was never a dull moment.
And he was in the same place all the years that he served, his office?
Well, the office started out, was over in, originally called Griffith Towers. Then it was Summit Court, now it's some King Street Towers or King Street
Commons.
Commons. Yes, okay. We were there for 20 years. Judge Dash retired from there, I believe, and shortly thereafter, the office moved over here to the train station. It was a county office, so I was moved over with them. I was still here when Judge Palladino came in, Judge Tom Palladino, and I was with him for 2 years. But Judge Dash also came back. He came back as a senior judge after he retired. After about a month lapse, they called him back as a senior judge. So at that time, he encouraged me to go to the district justice schooling in Chambersburg and get the certification. He had an inkling that I may be a good district justice, so at the time. So I went in December of '93. It was a 4-week course. I did very well, came back, and I thought this was going to be a shoo-in. When Judge Evans retired, I thought, oh, I'm certified. I'm going to just walk right in. Well, they had different ideas. 3 other gentlemen came out, and there was an election, and apparently, obviously I lost the election, but never had a regret. It was something I had to do at the time, and if I didn't do it when there was an opening, I never would have ran against an incumbent for sure.
This was a very impressive election because you went to see every voter at least twice.
Twice, I did. Through the primary, I knocked on every door. Lower Pottsgrove was challenging because, it was more residential, single homes, and even like I went Beach Street up, all the numbered, well, not the numbered streets so much. But I never walked across anybody's yard. I went up the steps, down the steps, over, and back up to the next door. But I did the same thing in November again, and I worked hard for it, but it wasn't meant to be. But I never had any regrets, and the best gentleman won. So,
how did you block that out to see all those people? How much time did this?
I almost every evening, weekends, Saturday, Sunday. I had my sisters helped me. And my present husband at the time used to drive me around and drop me off in one neighborhood till I was done, and he helped me with signs and everything. It was another full-time job, but luckily, I had no children at home. They were both married at the time, and so it was another full-time job. But if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it right. But no regrets, And I took a job at Smith Kline. One of the pharmaceuticals changed to Quest, and the money was really good, but it just wasn't for me. I sat in front of a computer all day, didn't talk to anybody, just entered a lot of data entry and that kind of stuff. And so January the 1st, 2000, it was the photo of the century out here, and I was here and I looked up at this building that it was just quite not open yet, and I said, I think I belong there. So I kept watching the paper, because that's what you did. The job openings were listed in the paper. So I applied, and I eventually had my first interview over at the Old Borough Hall in February, I believe, and then it's my second interview here, and I started March 27th. And I was here for 24 years. That was under Bob Jones, the Admiral, was the gentleman that hired me. So it was another, I could see people, talk to people every day, and it was a great 24 years. So,
let me just go back for a moment to when you were working for District Justice Dash.
Okay.
What are the kind of problems that people come in to see the District Justice about?
Well, a lot of times it was. We used to take the non-support cases. We used to take the protection from abuse cases, and at that time we do the paperwork and everything. But they would be lined up for to file a case even when we were open. The courthouse was open. Then eventually the courthouse took it over. If the courthouse was open, they had to go directly to the court. But we did everything from parking violations, motor vehicle violations, civil work, landlord tenants, and evictions, property sales, and even up to murders. The most famous murder case was the Swinehart murder.
Oh, you were there for that?
I was there, and that hearing started at 9 a.m., and never got done till after midnight, because I remember, and if I'm not mistaken, it was a new month. I had to change the dates on the paperwork because they were all recommitted. So I was there till after midnight for those hearings. Yeah.
Wow.
And at that time they were over in Summit Court, because I remember they kept a couple of the witnesses upstairs for obvious reasons in one of the apartments. But it was a long day. But yeah, we did everything from parking tickets to murders. So we saw it all in there. But
Now, you had mentioned to me some things you had learned from Justice Dash about treating people.
he taught me how to treat people. At first, I was afraid of everybody. I mean, where do these people come with all these problems and everything? He said, when they come in, either a three-piece suit, in uniform, or in handcuffs, you treat them all the same. And I learned to do that. I learned to do that. You had to respect every person that came through that door. They all had their own issues and problems, and they're all, you know, sometimes a lot of the attorneys were in a hurry. I can't wait for this hearing, and how long is it going to be? And, you know, but they all got used to them for sure. But yeah, Judge Dash was, he was sort of the old time judge. He, you know, there was a gentleman that there was teeming rain, and the officer was an on-call thing, and it was out of town. It wasn't our officers. Didn't want to take him home, so Judge Dash put him in the car and took him home. With teeming rain, cats and dogs. So that's the kind of judge he was. So, and he was treated all of us like his daughters, and we all appreciated it. So, but yeah, that was an experience. So, but I enjoyed the borough secretary job, you know, position just as well, and I've always felt that I belonged here. You know, it was.
So let's talk about some of the duties you had as, see, your old-fashioned calling it secretary, your administrative assistant, to starting off with Admiral Jones.
Right. Yeah. Well, he wasn't so much into computers, so everything was handwritten. And I didn't go to the authority, the water and sewer meetings, so they would be handwritten. And so I'd be typing the minutes out, the agendas, and he always made sure he saw the agenda before they would go out to council. Council was, you know, there was always a pecking order with Admiral Jones, of course, and council was on top. So, and I mean, I'm sure the others realized that too, but he, yeah, and I did the minutes, the agendas, and, you know, service the council. Council members, whatever they needed, you know, if they needed, you know, something typed or something like that, I would do that. You know, and they all had their little requests sometimes, you know, can you do this or can you do that? And I was happy to do it. I was happy to do it. And then Admiral Jones, when he left, he was here 8 years, I believe. But when he was always the MC for anything. I actually went to his wedding ceremony when he got remarried. His first wife had passed away. He was the MC for his wedding. So, but when he did, when they had the, was it the bicentennial, the 250th? He got the Navy band here and the traveling wall, the Vietnam Wall. But when he was making a speech, it had to be like 18 font, double spaced, and he made sure, which was, I mean, maybe I was a help because I knew Pottstown pretty well, and I knew the people in Pottstown, how to pronounce their names. He never wanted to mispronounce anyone's name, no matter how it was spelled. He wanted to know it was all phonetically spelled out for him. But that was one of my specific duties for Mr. Jones.
But when people would call up for something at Borough Hall, they always end up with you, right?
If a lot of times if they had a problem, like, you know, for instance, if they'd have a problem getting a permit, well, you know, everybody's in a big hurry, they'd come up, try to see the manager and stuff, and you know, different problems. They got a parking ticket, or they got, you know, something, they were in a handicapped space, and usually the police would take care of that. But, you know, if they had a problem, they'd still come to the third floor. But, you know, go see the manager. Go see the manager. Well, you know, you had to be a buffer, but it was always like, well, he's in a meeting. He's just ready to leave for a meeting, and, you know, we'll get it resolved. Just, you know, let him talk, and he'll get it resolved. But hopefully I did that for many people, I hope.
So after Bob Jones, we had Jack Lane.
Jack Lane. Jack Lane was here for a few years. He was such a gentleman. He tried, he really tried, and was maybe too much of a gentleman for that type of job, because he had to answer to a lot of people as well. And Jack Lane, then Ray Lopez took over, and after Ray, I believe it was Jason Bopst. Such a smart young man. Now he's in West Norton. Right now, he's manager of West Norton. Then Mark Flanders came up. I don't know if Jason announced his resignation kind of abruptly, maybe. And then Mark Flanders, they asked him, he was still police chief, but they asked him to come up and just be a supervisor, just be an administrator. So he kind of liked the job, and when he was retired as a police chief, he put in for borough manager, and overwhelmingly he was a great manager. He was a great manager. Then after Mark Flanders, then came Justin Keller, and he's still here. He's still with us. Another very smart young man.
So as a good Catholic school graduate,
Yes.
you were very good at grammar and spelling.
It's just they used to call me the grammar polices here, And
Please.
yeah.
And I believe it was Mark Flanders who let you clean up all his
He
letters.
did. He always gave me his letters, or he was good at dictation, and directives. And he always did ask me to please proofread them, make sure they're sentences, make sure the theirs and the its and the it are correct. And he didn't mind asking me, which was fine. It was. I was glad to do it. Yeah, I have a couple little plaques that say the grammar police is here, and I'm silently correcting your grammar. But yeah, that was he was good at that. But no, I enjoyed the job. It was great. But I thought about it for a while, and I'm 70, 73, 75, and then I talked to Justin about it, and for some reason I think somebody else was leaving, and he asked me if I could wait a couple months. I'd wait a couple months, and then he talked to me about it, and he said, if you're serious, we'll go ahead with it and stuff. So that was about June, I guess, and it took till about December they found my replacement. She's doing a great job, very young and energetic and computer literate, and I think that's what the position needed. Something new, fresh ideas, new computer skills, and I'm sure she's fitting right in. So. She's doing great.
So you were also the right to know officer.
Oh, yes.
And can you guesstimate in an average year about how many right to know requests you got?
I think the 1 year, it might have been, maybe when people had more time, was it 2020 or 2021? There was like over 400 in a year. Other years than
everything else.
Yeah.
Getting all this information, of course, you'd have to call people and them for it.
Always had. The department heads were always very accommodating. I mean, I could certainly not have done that without the department heads. Filling in at the police department. Lieutenant Marcy, he was the police right to know assistant, but he would get them right to me. Sometimes if he knew the people, he'd call and get it settled before it even had to be a right to know. He was great at that. But yeah, it was time consuming, but I don't think I was ever late. You had to do some kind of an answer within 5 days, I believe. And I don't think I was ever late, and then you asked for 30 days, and I certainly couldn't have done it without Chuck Garner either. I mean, Chuck was he would guide me through every one of them that was a problem or something,
Let me break in.
Okay.
So Chuck Garner was the borough lawyer, solicitor.
And still is.
And
Charles.
still is, and he started before you did.
He did. I believe he started mid-90s, maybe 94, 96. He was there before me. Yep. Yes, and his dad was, he was a director or something in the county, but he was also on borough council, I do believe.
He was?
Yes. Charles
President
Sr.
of council
Yes.
for a number of years.
Yeah. Perfect gentleman. Very nice gentleman. Yeah. But Chuck guided me through everything. I mean, never got upset about anything, never, never would put anything aside, never forgot anything, and he still does a great job. I don't know how the borough would get along without him, really. Yeah, he's great. So, so other than that, it was when the time came, I was thinking because I was here like, 7:30 to 4 every day, except vacations or something, and then 3 night meetings a month that you had to prepare for, and sometimes they went till 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I'm back in the next morning at 7:30, and thinking, why am I doing this at 75? So it was time to let someone else step in. But I miss the camaraderie and stuff, but I don't miss getting the agendas done, the minutes, and everything had a timeline. So it's a lot more relaxing being retired.
So what did you like best about it?
The job?
Yeah.
I think dealing with people, just seeing different people every day. The staff, I always made it a point to kind of wander around the building, probably every day. Wandered around just to say hello, see what's going on, just being nosy and see what's, not just being nosy. I enjoyed every one of them. I don't think there was anybody I couldn't get along with. But, it's great. We're lucky to have the people that we have. The police department is like second to none. It was just, it was an amazing group. Council, every one of them has their heart in this town, and it's very enlightening, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So
how are you dealing? It's been a year now.
It's been a year. Well, I have 11 grandkids to keep me busy. And I have a new grandchild on the way, probably within the next week or so, hopefully. And I take piano lessons. That's kind of my hobby. And my husband and I, Gene, we're always on the go. But yeah, it's been good. Luckily, I'm staying healthy. I can up and go whenever I want. But nope. So it was time. It was time. But